Today we're going to be talking about Albert Einstein. He developed the theory of relativity, one of the two pillars of modern science, as well as a bunch of quantum theories. He was born with an abnormally huge and strangely shaped head. But it all worked out, it fell into place. But he was always weird looking. He never wore socks or combed his hair. The kid had a brain for science. Daughter is born, she disappears, Einstein never met her, the daughter. Obviously he met the woman that he impregnated. Einstein marries the baby mama, they have a son, they have a second son, and Einstein moves to Berlin but leaves the wife and kids in Switzerland. They get divorced, and then he immediately marries his cousin, with whom he had been having an affair for 7 years. So when he comes up with the idea for the theory of relativity, he's at breakfast, and Elsa, his wife slash first cousin, they're sitting at breakfast together. Albert's just like, "Is everything all right? Does your pudding taste okay?" Albert? Then he goes and plays the piano for half an hour, still hasn't said a word, and then he goes upstairs to his study, spends 2 weeks in there, and then at the end of 2 weeks he comes downstairs, he's got 2 pieces of paper, he's like, "I did it! Here's my theory of relativity." And then he gets super famous for being smart. He was offered the presidency of Israel, and then he was like, "No, I'm not really very religious, but thank you." So when he's living in the US, he meets Charlie Chaplin, who is another huge pacifist, and they become BFFs. Chaplin's inviting him to movie premieres, and they're like, "Oh, I'm Albert Einstein, I'm Charlie Chaplin, and together we are the best of friends." He's important, okay? People are starting to hear the name Albert Einstein, they're starting to recognize him. He gets a Nobel Prize in physics, not for relativity, because people were like, "Relativity, that's controversial." He happened to be visiting the United States when Hitler rose to power over in Germany, and he was Jewish, so he was like, "Maybe I can't do a German accent. I am not going to go back to Germany. Maybe I'll just talk normal for Einstein." The Nazis were being their usual dickish selves and put a $5,000 bounty on Einstein's head, and they were like, "Screw Jewish intellectualism and Albert Einstein." And Einstein was like, "You can't get me," and they couldn't. He once paid the entire college tuition for a black student at Princeton University. He died in his 70s from internal bleeding due to a abdominal aortic aneurysm, and refused a potentially life-saving surgery, saying that it was foolish to preserve life through artificial means, and that he would like to die with grace and elegance. He dies, and then some surgeons during his autopsy were like, "Don't tell his wife and kids, but we're taking his brain!" And they just cut his brain out and stole it and put it in a jar. He spent his entire life trying to disprove quantum theory and mechanics, which was his own theory, but he was like, "It can't possibly be right because God is not playing with dice." But he never disproved it. On the one hand, he came up with a theory, and on the other hand, he thought it was wrong but couldn't disprove it. So I don't know what that means. He would get constantly stopped on the street. "Oh my God! It's Einstein, you guys! Oh my God! Hey, can you explain that theory to us? That thing? Oh my God, that's so funny. No, I'm mistaken for Professor Einstein all the time, but I'm not him. I don't know anything about science. Theory? What theory? If there's anybody that you'd like us to make a nutshell video about, make sure that you leave it in the comments, and if it's a good suggestion, we'll think about it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next video about the one and only Pocahontas. Until next time, live long, prosper, and be kind to animals.